चलो एक दो मैच खेल के हम जा रहे सोने की। क्या मन नहीं है यार पढ़ने, नींद से आ रही है। हाँ आज गंदी नींद आ रही है भाई। चाहते कुछ और है होता कुछ और है। चल लाइव है भाई। जी सबसे बढ़िया चीज़ है, मैंने अपना जब नाम चेंज करा है ना तो पता नहीं चलेगा लोगों को। मैं स्ट्रीम स्नैप नहीं होगी, वाइट ही नहीं डाला ना, उसमें मैंने वाइट ही डाला ना। हाँ एक सब्सक्राइबर कम हो गया, नाइस। सब्स कम भी होते हैं यार हमें।
मैच फाउंड।
I use this thumbnail of YouTube gamer guy a lot. इतना तो उसने यूज़ नहीं करा होगा जितना मैं यूज़ कर रहा हूँ उसका। अरे बाप रे। Okay, as a small content creator, it doesn't matter if you are plagiarizing thumbnails because I don't know, it looks good. We are just playing 2 to 3 death matches, some chess matches, and a little bit of Rocket League maybe. Oh, Rocket League है. We'll play that. What do you say? हाँ थोड़ा स्लैटर तो हो रहा है इससे। क्या इस स्ट्रीम का तो पिंग हाई हुई जाती है। Yeah, you see, that's why I don't stream because see, my ping is fluctuating. Dude, why does he have a classic? One bullet.
You're nothing. Blocking sight.
इसकी क्लासिक से मुझे डर लग रहा है भाई। इसकी आँख तेज है ना। कूद जाओ भाई, बॉडी शॉट मार के। नाइस फ्लैश, नाइस फ्लैश।
Time to jump.
Reloading. Blocking sight. Satchel out.
वही क्या?
Night night.
पिंग कैसी सी है ये? कभी मैं सोचता हूँ वो हेड के सही, मैं इनके साथ जा ही नहीं रहा। के अंदर बॉडी ब्लॉक हो रहा हूँ। अब तुम चारों राइट से जा रहे हो, एक बंदा तो मार दो, फ्लैंक करके मार रहे हो। नाइस। Finally, somebody did.
One down.
Holy.
Three.
Charge your ults.
Bomb buddy out.
Timing. इतनी गंदी टाइमिंग भाई. मैं सोचा लेगा नहीं वहाँ से.
Reloading. Satchel out.
My ultimate is ready.
Seconds until stage change.
Line them up. I'm going in.
बैटमैन भाई ने मैं 3 बार फ्लैश करा है.
Final stage.
Duck blocking sight. Cutting the ring. Reloading. Three.
भाई पिंग गंदी है.
Four.
पता नहीं कैसे मर रहे हैं.
Yikes. My squad. Reloading.
ये गंदी पिंग मर शर्म बन गया.
Your fault.
रेडी हेड बार.
Got him. Grenade. Reloading.
भाई ये नियॉन हर बार मैं देख रहा हूँ. मैं रीलोड में हूँ तभी मारा है.
Too rich.
या R1 लेके आता है. कुछ ना कुछ तो करता ही है. उसको तो मार दो भाई. देख लिया यार. आँख कोई नहीं पड़ेगा ना.
Face your fear.
Begins.
और भी देवा. सारे वहीं से लड़क करके आ रहे हैं भाई.
Thinking, Oniva.
Cutting 15 kills to go.
Blocking sight. You're done. Next.
यार ये वहाँ नीचे होल्ड कर रहे हैं क्या? कहाँ पे है मुझे
Reload.
फेस टू फेस फाइट ही नहीं मिला.
Stay down. My ult's ready. What's this? Nailed it.
तो जीत गए. That was unfortunate win actually. Shouldn't have won that. Never mind. Never mind. Verux. बैटमैन भाई ने मैं बहुत फ्लैश करा भाई.
Match found. Let's go.
Yeah. Dumbest way people have died. Why did they die? That is inevitable, actually, no. But mourning over that.
Reloading.
And they're off.
Gonna fall back here.
Moving area.
यकीन नहीं है गोली इसकी लगी नहीं क्रॉसर तो उसी की हेड एक और कोई बड़ा
Reloading.
भाई तो 70 पिंग दे रहा है
Charge your ults.
Enemy kill.
भाई वो
Stage 2.
Reloading.
भाई वो पीक ही नहीं ले रहा है दिक्कत ये है नहीं वेट कर
Reloading.
Talk
Down.
भाई इतनी गंदी पिंग आ रही है 190
Don't miss it.
ये कहाँ से डर कर गया भाई मारो भाई ये मारो
Reloading.
reloading.
Get out of my way.
New stage in 10.
1 मिनट पिंग दे रही है भाई जैसे ही खेलूंगा इसके बाद फिर
Stage 3.
लीगल चली नहीं है भाई
Night night.
There's the other.
Who now?
ऐसे कैसे जाने रे तुम्हें
Yep.
टपली पड़ी है तो पूरा
Charge your ults.
Oh, you ain't coming back.
Bye. Reloading. Reloading.
I know exactly where you are.
10 seconds until stage change.
गया भाई
Just stabbed her way to a
Reloading.
rampage.
Shut down.
Final stage.
The hunt begins.
ओ भाई बहुत बढ़िया। आजा 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 आजा। गया परमानेंट आ गया।
One down. Blocking sight.
स्मोक तो मारो फिर।
Headshot.
क्या कर रहे हैं?
3.
Defeated. My ult's ready. My ultimate is ready. Line him up! I'm going in! Nailed!
पापा मैक्स। शिफ्ट वॉक करना चालू करो अभी। शिफ्ट वॉकिंग चल रही है। अबे भाई लगाने उसको। नहीं तो हेड भी था बड़ा।
Take it out. My ult is ready. I am the hunter! Too slow.
जो बेटा वो दीवार के अंदर घुसा हुआ है वो एंगल वॉल बैंगल भी नहीं था।
Be faster.
Reloading.
Rain is down.
भाई वो चलते चलते हेड नहीं रहा।
Ultimate ult spawning.
Your fault.
5 kills left.
Don't miss the cue button.
चलते चलते कैसे मत दे सकता कोई ये। RNG हटाओ। ओके अब हम चेस खेलेंगे क्योंकि हमारे इस नेट में हम स्ट्रीम नहीं कर सकते। पता नहीं कैसे कर लेता था मैं। Anyway, guys, बहुत गंदा पैकेट लॉस आ रहा है ब्रो। चलो 8,000 किंगडम पॉइंट है। किंगडम स्टोर में जाएंगे एक्सेसरीज में वर्सेस फिनिश सेट कार्ड ये तो है मेरे भी वापस खेलना है। जेट किंगडम करेक्ट थोड़ी आएगा ये। कौन से वे इन्होंने बदल लिया गया। सारे खराब हार्बर में अच्छा वीटो है लॉक ही नहीं करा है। क्या यार वीटो तो चाहिए नहीं। एक और रहता है 8,000 में ये हो जाएगा और एक तेओ का रहता है टियर 10 दो रहते हैं दोनों के बाद उनके बाद बीटो ही रहता है वही है फिर ग्रैंड कर रखा हूँ। चलो चिल स्ट्रीम चेस खेलेंगे। आ रहा है अपना नाम चेंज करना मुझे। रिवर्स इटालियन फ्राइड लेयर खेल रहा है, मैं ट्रैक्सिलर खेलूंगा अगर वो यहाँ से लेता है। वो थियरी तो पता नहीं है। आई थिंक क्वीन h4 है। Sack the knight. I can't sack the knight right now because that would make a lot of issues. क्वीन भगाने का है। अगर मैं सैक कर तो वो लेता है, फिर मैं लूँगा। We can sack. I don't know if this is the right move or wrong. This is insanity. Alright. What can we do? Shall we trade off? Oh, he played pretty good. We can't give check here because there's a knight. And of course we can't give check here. We can actually win a rook. Pin this piece. अबे वो डिस्कवर चेक दे सकता फिर। ये नाइट है ना। Push here, he takes here, then I don't know. ये मेट है। वह भाई चूड़ी दे रहा है। बढ़िया खेला भाई। Well played. Kazakhstan, oh nice. मैं थियरी पे नहीं खेला ना, मैं नाइट सैक कर दी। मुझे करना नहीं चाहिए था क्योंकि क्वीन वहाँ पे थी ना। बढ़िया मूव था ये, ग्रेट। वैसे बेस्ट किया ना। अच्छा क्वीन पीछे लाना ताकि मैं अपना नाइट गवा दूँ। तो लूजिंग है यार, कंप्लीट लूजिंग है ये। यहाँ से तो मैं कुछ नहीं कर सकता, ओवर ट्रेड कर लेगा। भाई ट्रैक्सिलर ये वाली लाइन तो बहुत लूजिंग है बे। फिर इसमें तो इतने ग्रेट मूव्स है बंदे के पास, क्या ही कर लूंगा मैं। क्या ये बेस्ट मूव है? हम ट्रैक्सिलर नहीं खेल रहा है। मैसेज किसने से दिया मुझे? You can let white go. Black pieces at the same time. chess.com के सामने खेल रहे हूँ. तो समझ के बाहर है मेरे. Budapest सीखते हैं यार. चलो.
Learn the key ideas for both sides in the Budapest defense. Black has misplayed the Fajarovich variation. How can
Budapest का है. हम Budapest सीखेंगे.
learn the key idea?
When white opens the game with d4, and black defends the center with knight f6, white's most direct and ambitious choice is to grab more space with c4. Black has a wide variety of ways to handle this position, ranging from safe, solid systems gradually fighting for equality, to razor-sharp defenses that try to wrestle the initiative away from white. If black doesn't mind accepting some serious positional risks in order to provoke immediate complications, then the disruptive Budapest gambit can make an appearance on the board with e5. At first glance, you may think this is a mouse slip, as if black intended to only advance the e-pawn one square and accidentally advanced it one square too far. In truth, black deliberately sacrifices a pawn in order to fight for a quick initiative early in the game. It's important to note that white's pawn is on c4, as this deprives the light-squared bishop of that square, making it less likely for white to create a quick kingside attack. This means that black will rapidly develop and try to create dangerous attacking chances before white is able to fully complete development. That being said, white should not fear the Budapest gambit, as careful opening play should neutralize black's early initiative, when black will have to find a way to justify this risky opening decision. Since declining the gambit does not offer any advantage to white, for example, d5 is well met with bishop c5, when black already enjoys an active position without making any concessions. White should challenge the Budapest by accepting the gambit with d takes e5. The pawn on e5 is vulnerable to attack, so black's main idea is to rapidly develop and intensify the pressure against this pawn with knight g4. White has three main responses that all challenge the Budapest in one way or another, but the tempting choice to protect the e5 pawn and attack the knight with queen d4 is not one of them. It appears black may be in some trouble, but if white becomes overly obsessed with material, it may actually be white who suddenly lands into trouble. Queen d4 is well met with d6, adding pressure against the e5 pawn while revealing the light-squared bishop's protection of the knight on g4. If white accepts the pawn with e takes d6, one option for black to explore is knight c6, continuing to rapidly develop while gaining a tempo against the queen. Another tricky option is bishop takes d6. Black is starting to build a lead in development while White's kingside remains untouched, so White should focus on addressing this issue, but since Black's pawn on g7 is no longer protected,
और
it's
discovered
tempting to
attack
play
भी है।
queen.
एक डिस्कवर्ड अटैक भी है। देख अगर ब्लैक कुछ आंचांट खेलता है, क्वीन को सपोर्ट नहीं करता है, सपोज उसने नाइट भगाया यहाँ पे या फिर H3 पुश करा, तो ये यहाँ पे डिस्कवर्ड अटैक दे देगा। एंड मैं क्वीन ग्रैब कर दूंगा। Damn, this is some nice one.
Takes g7, capturing yet another pawn and threatening the rook on h8, but this greedy approach is punished by the powerful bishop e5. The bishop protects the rook on h8, x-raying through White's queen, while also adding pressure.
If he does bishop here, oh, there's a knight here, right? Okay, knight here.
Greedy approach is punished by the powerful bishop e5. The bishop protects the rook on h8, x-raying through White's queen, while also adding pressure against the b2 pawn. In order to not lose the queen outright, White can try to play queen g5, but this loses after the forced exchanges queen takes g5, bishop takes g5, and bishop takes b2, when Black will collect the rook on a1 with a completely winning position. Instead of queen d4, trying to hold on to the pawn with f4 is also a poor decision, as this invites bishop c5, slicing through White's weak and dark squares. Instead of placing a pawn on f4, a much stronger as well as popular choice is the direct bishop f4, simply developing a piece and protecting the e5 pawn. Some Budapest gambiteers like to play the disruptive g5, attacking White's dark squared bishop, as well as preparing a possible bishop g7. This is a risky choice as Black compromises the kingside pawn structure in order to generate active play. The interested viewer is encouraged to examine the lines after White's strongest reply, bishop d2. In some cases, White will challenge the long diagonal with bishop c3, but another testing plan is to simply focus on development with knight c3 and fianchettoing the light-squared bishop with g3 and bishop g2, creating long-term positional pressure. In response to bishop f4, Black's most common choice is knight c6, developing a piece while adding another attacker against the e5 pawn, so White naturally defends this pawn with knight f3. Black typically continues with the disruptive bishop b4 check. White has to decide how to develop the knight on b1. If White wants to avoid compromising the pawn structure, then we'll see White play knight b to d2. Now Black is able to bring the queen into the action with queen e7. Black's forces surround the e5 pawn and will soon regain the material. If this line interests you as White, a simple plan is to play e3, focusing on completing development with bishop e2 and castling kingside. Instead, if White decides to challenge the dark-squared bishop with a3, many Budapest gambit players are first attracted to this opening due to this exact position, as Black can ignore White's threat and play knight g takes e5. White's king looks extremely well protected, but it's actually smothered by its own pieces, so if White carelessly accepts the bishop with a takes b4, the game comes to a sudden end with knight d3.
Oh.
Since the pawn on e2 is pinned to the king, Black delivers a smothered mate, a nasty trap to keep in mind. Instead of accepting the bishop, White initiates exchanges on e5 with knight takes e5, knight takes e5, and bishop takes e5. Now that the smothered mate trick has been eliminated, White is actually threatening a takes b4. So this is a good time for Black to play bishop takes d2 check, when after the exchanges queen takes d2 and queen takes e5. In this simplified position, Black can focus on castling the king, followed by playing d6, intending to develop the light-squared bishop. White is certainly not without resources as well, and one idea is to fianchetto the light-squared bishop with g3 and bishop g2, followed by castling kingside, with reasonable chances for both sides. When facing the disruptive bishop b4 check, if White wants to challenge the Budapest directly, then it's worth exploring the more active response knight c3. White's knight blocks the check from a more active square, keeping the d-file clear for the queen, which can later support the e5 pawn with queen d5. If Black doesn't capture White's knight on c3 immediately, then moves such as queen b3 come to mind, adding pressure against the bishop without allowing Black to compromise White's structure. So Black typically initiates the exchange bishop takes c3 check, b takes c3, surrendering the bishop pair but saddling White with doubled, isolated c-pawns. Black continues to intensify the pressure against e5 with queen e7. White supports the e5 pawn while centralizing the queen with queen d5. It's important for black to play actively because if black decides to chase after a pawn with queen a3, adding pressure against white's weakened queen side, white has the strong reply rook c1, protecting the c3 pawn while offering the a2 pawn to black. If black snatches this pawn with queen takes a2, white's lead in development and domination in the center is quite clear after h3, forcing the wayward Budapest knight to lose more time with knight h6. White should avoid trading the knight on h6 and instead focus on dominating the center with e4. If black tries to restart the knight's journey with knight g8, hoping to attack the queen from the e7 square, white has the strong response c5, taking space while offering an exchange of queens. Queen takes d5 would allow an incredible pawn mass after e takes d5, forcing black's only developed piece to retreat. And if black plays queen a3, this is well met with bishop c4, threatening checkmate on f7, forcing black's knight to the depressing d8 square.
भाई बहुत बड़ा है ये. This one is damn, bro. This is the Budapest, Caracan, Catalans, Daniel Gambit, Low Sicilian, Ivan's Gambit, Flank, Four Knights, French. Is it Traxler, Italian game? Okay.
The Italian game has been a
When white opens the game with e4, black's most classical continuation is to respond in kind with e5. The central struggle continues after knight f3, developing the knight and adding pressure against black's e5 pawn, so black actively develops while defending the center with knight c6. Bishop
Italian
e5,
has a
known as the
lot of variation, like Ponziani, the Gucci Piano, and the fried liver. I know the three variations. I haven't played Ponziani for a longer time because I don't know.
Rui Lopez is one of white's most established and classical responses debated at Grandmaster level for centuries. In this video, we are going to focus on another opening with a rich history and sound strategic basis, developing the light-squared bishop to the active a2 to g8 diagonal with bishop c4. The bishop enjoys an active diagonal, pointing at black's weakest point on the chessboard, the f7 square. If black plays the natural knight f6, known as the two knights defense, this provokes incredible complications after knight g5, piling up pressure against the weak f7 pawn, the subject of another video. To discourage knight g5, black occasionally wastes time with the dubious h6, or develops the dark-squared bishop to the somewhat passive e7 square. Both of these moves are well met by striking in the center with d4, developing a strong initiative for white. We're going to focus on black's straightforward, solid response bishop c5, actively developing the dark-squared bishop and fighting for control over the d4 square. Notice that knight g5 is not possible, as this would simply hang a piece to queen takes g5. If white decides to play d3, supporting the center and opening up the dark-squared bishop, this can be met by the natural developing move knight f6. There is clearly nothing wrong with white's solid d3 move, but white is mistaken if it is followed up by knight g5, intensifying the pressure against f7. When you first see this line as black, it can feel pretty intimidating, but black has nothing to fear after castling the king. The point is that if white continues with a premature attack knight takes f7, after rook takes f7, bishop takes f7 check, and king takes f7, black's king may feel a little exposed, but where are white's attacking pieces? White has wasted time to exchange two minor pieces for black's rook and pawn. Although this exchange may be considered approximately equal from a materialistic perspective, the quality of black's pieces promise a more comfortable game. Black already has three active minor pieces developed, enjoying a significant advantage in time. During the early phases of the game, the knights and bishops are easier to handle, as it takes some time for the rooks to find open lines for development. One basic plan for black is to complete development with d6, supporting the center, and allowing the light-squared bishop to enter the game quickly with bishop e6 or bishop g4. Black's rook may visit the f8 square, so that once the king returns to g8, black's rook can enjoy activity down the f-file. This impatient approach is not a good choice for white. When beginners take their first steps in the game, they are advised to rapidly develop, castle quickly, and focus on controlling the center. Countless games have been played in the following way: knight c3, knight f6. Both sides have dutifully developed their minor pieces toward the center. This is usually followed up by quickly castling. When white plays d3, supporting the center and possibly preparing a pin with bishop g5. Sometimes black follows suit with d6, but may also decide to prevent the pin with h6. White may confront black's bishop with bishop e3. Notice that white is not afraid of allowing doubled pawns with bishop takes e3. F takes e3. White's e3 pawn helps support the center, while also opening up the f-file for white's rook. When appropriate, this pawn may also help white expand in the center with d4, so there's a lot more to this story than assuming white simply has weak doubled pawns. Rather than capturing on e3, black can maintain the tension with bishop b6, encouraging white to capture on black's terms with bishop takes b6, opening up the a-file for black's rook. White may continue with the plan of general development with queen d2, supporting the bishop and connecting the rooks, when black may follow in similar fashion with d6, possibly preparing to activate the light-squared bishop with bishop g4. So white can play h3, preventing bishop g4, when black may decide to activate the bishop on the e6 square, confronting white's light-squared bishop, when white
Ah. फिर
may also maintain the tension with bishop b3. After queen d7, we have reached a symmetrical
बाप रे कितना ज़्यादा सिमेट्री है यहाँ पे। तो वो लोग बिशप को पीछे कर रहे हैं ताकि उनकी रुक की फाइट रुक जाए।
position in which both sides may focus on centralizing their rooks on the d and e files.
Symmetry. I didn't know the Italian had so much of symmetry actually.
This is a common way for both sides to play with a basic understanding of opening guidelines. Perhaps you've seen or even played a game or two yourself in this variation. As you gain more experience, you'll realize that this is only scratching the surface of this eternal opening, and there's a lot more excitement and strategic complexity to discover. When white castled, we notice black automatically followed suit. In this slower variation of the Italian game, there can be value in delaying castling. Now that white is committed to kingside castling, black can remain flexible by playing d6, supporting the center and preparing to activate the light-squared bishop. White may invest another tempo preventing this with h3, softening the castled kingside, but if white continues routinely with d3, this may lead to serious trouble after bishop g4, pinning white's knight. White may decide to return the favor with bishop g5, pinning black's knight to the queen. Since white has already castled the king, the pin on f3 becomes quite serious after knight d4. If white continues to follow black's strategy with knight d5, increasing the pressure against the pinned knight, we can see how important it is to castle wisely, not automatically. The immediate knight takes f3 is a good choice, but black can also confront white's knight with c6. If white retreats with knight e3, black can seriously damage white's kingside defenses with knight takes f3 check. But if white decides to double black's pawns with knight takes f6 check, g takes f6. Since black's king remains in the center, opening the g-file will benefit black. White can decide to move the bishop to safety with bishop h4, but things start to quickly fall apart for white after knight takes f3 check, g takes f3, ripping open the g-file, followed by bishop h3, attacking white's rook, so after rook e1. White's king is terribly exposed on the g-file, and since black is not castled, this allows the crushing rook g8 check. King h1 leads to disaster after bishop g2 check, and it turns out white will suffer a similar fate after bishop g3, blocking the check but self-pinning the dark-squared bishop. Black can exploit the pin by playing h5, threatening to win a piece after h4, attacking the pinned bishop, and trying to unpin the bishop with king h1 does not prevent black from playing the powerful h4. You know it's a bad sign when white's best response is to simply allow black to win a piece with h takes g3, because if white plays bishop takes h4, once again opening up the deadly g-file, black can play bishop g2 check, forcing the king back to the g-file, when black wins white's queen with bishop takes f3 check, attacking the queen while discovering the rook's check on the g-file. As we can see, although castling is generally a desirable idea, making this decision automatically can lead to serious trouble. Rather than castling automatically, inviting a ready-made attack on the king side, white can remain flexible with d3. When playing these positions as black, it's generally a reasonable plan to wait until white castles before committing the king to a particular side of the board. A flexible response is to simply play d6, supporting the center and waiting to see how white will continue. Instead of castling immediately, when bishop g4 may prove quite annoying, white can be the one to first deliver a pin with bishop g5. Black should not automatically castle, as this would lead to similar problems we just examined with knight d5, preparing to damage black's castled structure. Black can challenge white's bishop with h6. If white decides to surrender the bishop pair with bishop takes f6, queen takes f6. Notice that knight d5, attacking the queen while threatening a fork on c7, is well met by queen d8. Now that there's no longer a knight on c3, white may focus on playing c3, preparing possible queenside expansion with b4 and a4, or support striking in the center with d4. Black may counter this by playing knight e7, adding pressure against the knight, and possibly preparing c6 with a roughly balanced game. Instead of capturing black's knight, white can maintain the tension with bishop h4. Dealing with this pin can be quite annoying, but since black hasn't committed to castling kingside, black can disturb the bishop once again with g5, unpinning the f6 knight. The weakening g5 is not a move to be played lightly, and it's important to understand why white's piece sacrifice is unsound after knight takes g5. H takes g5, and bishop takes g5. This can look quite scary for black, especially as white is prepared to play moves such as knight d5 and queen f3, piling up the pressure against the pinned knight. Once again, we can see the value of delaying kingside castling in this specific variation. Black can use the open g8 square to refute white's attack with rook g8. White can reinforce the bishop with h4, intending to play knight d5, intensifying the pressure against the pinned knight. Black may continue with the provocative bishop g4, or defending d5 while confronting white's light-squared bishop with bishop e6. But the simplest way to put an end to white's unsound attack is with bishop b4, pinning the knight and preparing to counter queen f3 with the well-timed rook g6, supporting the pinned knight when white lacks compensation for this unsound sacrifice. Knight takes g5 can be a serious problem if black's king is committed to the king side, but with black's king in the center, white should avoid this move and simply retreat the bishop with bishop g3. Black may continue with a quick bishop g4, or first play the g6, supporting the pinned knight when white lacks compensation for black's king is committed to the king side, but with black's king in the center, white should avoid this move and simply retreat the bishop with bishop g3.
बहुत बड़ा कोर्स है भाई.
White's threat to f7 is ineffective in this position. How should black defend and achieve a good game? Good start. White cap. Keep it up. Good work. Black's king is slightly exposed, but white has no developed pieces and black has an excellent position. White has chosen a bad moment to castle and black can start a strong attack. How should you do it? Good decision. White attempted to copy black's idea, but black hasn't castled yet, so doubled pawns aren't an issue. What should black play? This is a good capture, but there's a threat that's even stronger. Try to find it. Good decision. White attempted to copy black's idea, but black hasn't castled yet, so doubled pawns aren't an issue. What should black play? Black is slightly better, but there's a threat that's significantly stronger. Try to find it.
हाँ ये बताया था ना. ये नहीं है. नाइट टेक्स तो है बट और कुछ ताकत है.
This is reasonable, but another threat is more useful. Try to find an even better way to target a white piece. Good decision. White attempted to copy black's idea, but black hasn't castled yet, so doubled pawns aren't an issue. What should black play? There's a better move. Try again and look for a useful threat. There's a better move. Try again and look for a useful threat. There's a better move. Try again and look for a useful threat. This is a good capture, but there's a threat that's even stronger. Try to find it. Good decision. White attempted to copy black's idea, but black hasn't castled yet, so doubled pawns aren't an issue. What should black play? Good idea. How should you expose the white king?
एक मिनट, अगर ये लेटा है फिर मैं ले लूँगा, फिर वो पीछे जाएगा। ये बढ़िया नहीं है। वो ये लेटा है।
White's king side is exposed. How should you take advantage? There's a better option. Try again and look for a good threat. Well played. White will have difficulty defending the...
अच्छा, एक लास्ट खेल के फिर मैं भी सोने जा रहा हूँ। Philidor. Threatening it, okay. He saved the mage. भाई मिसक्लिक हो गया। Wasn't this the best move? Wait नहीं है? Series. और कैस्लिंग में मिसक्लिक कर रहा है।
Even game, then bam! Mating tactic out of nowhere. Savage. Alright, e4. Look at this. A super... Not bad. You're tearing... This move, golden opportunity missed to kick a bishop. That pawn just kicked the bishop. Solid trade. That's checkmate sauce, right? This permits the opponent to check. This move opens the gold. They just... Okay, playing it safe. Your opponent... You just gave up a pawn. Your opponent... You're developing your opponent's activating the knight and fighting for the center. That's how it's done. White develops the knight and attacks the center. Your opponent's active... You missed an opportunity to connect rooks. Connected rooks working together like a well-oiled machine. Your opponent... Queenside cat... Not the best move, but not a bad one either. That pawn... The rooks are connected. Now they're vibing and ready to coordinate.
What? Fiancado the king?
You missed it. This basically hands the opponent the chance to... GG, checkmate secured. What a win.
How do you feel fiancado? Is this guy playing the king's Indian attack? Shall we have? Alright, this match is gonna go tougher. Okay. This can go F, but we have to here, I don't know where. Here, take, go back. We develop the bishop into an active square. खतरनाक खेल रहे हैं अपने बंदे. The check here, and what else? Okay, I believe I can take the bishop. If he pushes tail takes here, then this is check, check. I can just pester this guy. Here, if he pushes steer, take his queen. If he goes here, I take. Or if he takes a rook. And let's take it, right? What biggie when I can take? Oh, if I take it, no, I can take with a knight. Or I can give it check and take the bishop. I can give it check. You can go somewhere rattling here. Then I can just take. So you can go here. I can take. And I have two pieces. And rook will come here. And then what will do? I think the better move is just to you taking it, bro. I don't see any weight in going my way. Move here, he can move there. Then what? Here, if you take this, then what? This is a tough position, not gonna lie. हटा भाई मैं नहीं देख रहा भाई